Leinster stutter and stumble their way into the semi-final. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Scarlets really put it up to Leinster in this one, asking a lot of questions. Leinster found wanting, in a lot of those occasions as well. They did get the job done, but you have to wonder, is that going to be enough to actually get to a final, let alone, lift the trophy? Still a lot, question marks about Leinster before this. I think they're still remaining as well, but let's talk about the game itself. So Leinster on the front foot early on, actually looking pretty decent, not too flash in attack. They're actually keeping it simple and working it to 22 from a line out on the left. They work it wide right, and then Scarlets think for a moment they've actually forced them into touch. There's shouts, but it's play on. Leinster, they've managed to keep it in. They work it to about 5 meters out before then moving it left for low to go over. And, it was actually his earlier kick that gave Leinster the position in the first place. Prendergast then just way off target with the conversion, 5 points to 0. Scarlets trying to put pressure on in the Leinster half, but Lousy is offside, and that allows Leinster to clear. Scarlets then look to counter as they get Murray into space on the left, but they knock on and Leinster come forward again. I thought Murray was absolutely excellent for Scarlets today. Then we have some intricate play in the 22 that allows Conan to break the line, and he puts James Gibson Park under the post, converted for 12 points to 0. And not the start that Scarlets needed to this game, but in fairness to them, they didn't panic. They regrouped and they worked their way back into the game. So first of all, Lousy managed to charge down James Gibson Park at the back of a caterpillar, but he was offside. So Leinster go to the corner, but then they overthrow the line out. And, not for the first time in the game, not the last time either. So line out definitely needs work from Leinster's point of view, but so does their attack and their defence. So there's a lot of question marks, as I said, about them. Scarlets then begin to work their way into the game. High tackle from Clarkson, and they kick it up the line into 22. Nice move around the back with the line out, gets them momentum. They then move it through the backs. Murray with lovely hands to find Rogers, who rides a tackle and stretches out to score on the line, converted to 12 points to 7. Both teams then competing well as possession and territory switches between them a number of times. Feels like next score could be crucial, and just in terms of that momentum. And MacLeod is offside. Leinster, the call for the tee. It's just inside the Scarlets half, and it's central. Prendergast makes it 15 points to 7. Scarlets then with a number of chances from lineouts on the edge of the 22, but when they were looking to move it, Leinster were able to get in there and disrupt. Leinster then turned them over and they work it up to the Scarlets line, but Prendergast then just drops the ball. It's kicked out on by me. He gets to again, kicks it further ahead. Barrett, and I think it was probably Prendergast, chasing them down. Me may get caught, but Blair Murray is there. He kicks it on a couple of more times and then, drops on it to score. Barrett almost got to him, but, his attempted tackle, if he had have actually connected, I think, probably would have seen, a penalty try and him going to the bin. So he's kind of lucky that he didn't. Then we have a TMO check for the grounding. Not sure why, but as soon as we see it, it's obviously clear that there's nothing wrong with it. So then converted, and that was basically the stroke of half time. Like, we're in the red. So 15-14 at the break. Scarlets, on top of the world, I think, going in at the break after the start that Leinster gotten to be 1 point behind at the break. Into second half then, Scarlets not straight at a line out on the edge of their own 22. Leinster have a chance from a scrum in a decent position. They go infield from the scrum. Prendergast kicks over the top. Osborne gets to it first as it bounces through the posts. We have again a TMO check for the grounding, but it's fine, compared to 22 points to 14. Sheehan then just on, and he's off feet at the breakdown. Scarlets points to the post, but Costello is off target with the kick. Leinster then looking to probe in behind with kicks, with Blair Murray just covering really well and getting great distance and direction on his clearance kicks, which means that Leinster are ending up back in their own half most of the time. Leinster then attack off a line out. They get low into space, wide left, but Rogers really well covering across. But Hepburn goes in there and he's not rolling away. He goes to the bin. Leinster then to the corner, moving from the line out, almost knock it on twice before they actually knock it on. Great pressure in defence from Scarlets, but that Leinster defence is just not firing at all. And then Scarlets then win a penalty from the resulting scrum and they're able to clear. The commentary team then chatting with one of the Scarlets coaches, and he ended it by saying, Scarlets, we need to work the ball upfield and get the next score. And just as he's finished speaking, Sheehan charges down a kick. Leinster shift the ball inside. Barrett feeds Keenan, who goes over and does really well to get the ball down. Prendergast misses a really straightforward conversion, 27 points to 14. Scarlets then playing around with it, near their own line. Twice they just about managed to scramble the ball clear, but you feel like, if Leinster managed to pick them off there, that could have been the game. But we do know as well that Scarlets have the capability to actually score from those positions too. Leinster then to the corner from a penalty, thinking maybe a Sheehan special here. Sheehan does go off the back of a maul that wasn't getting very far, and he gets hauled down. Scarlets then offside. Prendergast makes it 30 points to 14 from the tee. Lloyd then with a lovely delayed pass to beat the Leinster defence. He puts Fafita through a gap, offloads to Van der Merwe, and he puts Williams over to score, converted for 30 points to 21. We then have a TMO check for a high hit on Keenan by Fafita. It's deemed not a high degree of danger, glancing blow and yellow card. And I kind of agree with the commentary team here that maybe they were looking for mitigation to bring it down from a red to a yellow, but that's not unusual. All season we've been seeing that. We saw actually Holly Davidson do the same in the Challenge Cup final when it looked like it was definitely going to be a red card, but it was mitigated down to a yellow, which meant that I think the next time when it should have been a yellow, she mitigated it down to a penalty just because she brought the bar down. But you can, again, I talked about it in that game with a referee. You don't want to be remembered for, quote unquote, spoiling a game because he gave someone a red card. So you can see why they'd look for mitigation. And even though I'm a Leinster fan, I'm not going to, pillory her for that, because if it had happened, if a Leinster player had done something similar, we probably would have got the rub of that as well. So no complaints about that at all. If that's the way, and the good thing I think about it is that even if maybe we don't agree with it in terms of the letter of the laws, referees have been consistent with it now this season. It's not something new. So, it's not like it would have been out of the ordinary for it to do that. So for me, that's absolutely fine. Then Prendergast steps up to the penalty, makes it 32 points to 21, and you feel like that should be it. And Leinster do end up running down the remainder of the clock, full time 33-21. So let's have a look at the stats, and then we'll talk about each of the teams. So let me pull the stats up here on the official site. Okay, so first off, tries scored, 4 tries to 3 in favour of Leinster. But again, Leinster to score 4 tries, but that attack just does not look good at all. And then that's off 65% possession to 35. So they'd so much more of the ball, but the team that looked threatening when they had the ball was Scarlets. So Leinster were lucky that Scarlets only had 35% of the ball, honestly. Clean breaks then, 11-7. And the defenders beaten 26-14, which means that Leinster at less than 1-2 conversion rate and Scarlets at 1-2. So Scarlets actually doing better in terms of once they beat the first man, turning it into a break. Whereas, previously we've praised Leinster for their scramble. That scramble, for whatever reason, does not seem to be functioning at all in the last kind of month and a half or so for them. And that's a real worry, because again, this season they built their team around their defense, and the fact that the attack wasn't as cutting edge as we've seen it, or as incisive as we've seen it in previous seasons, wasn't so bad, because we knew the defense was there and it would be hard for teams to score against them. Now that the defense is creaking, there's more focus going on the attack, because they need to score more points to beat teams, and it's getting to the point where you wonder if they're going to have enough, for a Glasgow team in the semi-final. But offloads then, 16 for Leinster, 7 for Scarlets. Some of Leinster's offloads, again, were just these ones offloading just to keep the ball alive, and offloading to keep the ball moving and stuff. And at times it felt like they could have just taken the ruck, reset themselves a little bit, because times they were offloading and this, it was making it 50-50. If the Scarlets get that, they're so good on that transition to attack from defence that they could have got a score out of it. So, 16 offloads sounds good and sounds like it's very positive attacking, but it could have been very, very dangerous as well, going the other way. Then territory 70% to 30% in favour of Leinster, and that could have been much bigger only for Blair Murray there at the back. Some of his booming kicks clearing from the back to put Leinster back in their own half were absolutely brilliant. Number of tackles, 46 for Leinster and 143 for Scarlets, and Leinster missing 12 of their 46 tackles, so more than a quarter of them. That's very worrying. 26 missed tackles from Scarlets. So Leinster down at 69%. So the only team that we've seen worse than them so far in the knockouts has been the Stormers, who were like 65, I think, against Glasgow last night. So, that doesn't bode well for Leinster again going into that semi-final. 76% tackle rate for Scarlets. It's, compare that to the regular season, that looks poor, right? But compare it to the knockout stages, that's not too bad. Turnovers won then, just 4 for Leinster, 6 for Scarlets. So again, Leinster, tons of ball, but when they got in position, Scarlets were able to turn them over. Kicking then, kicks retained, 6 for Leinster, 7 for Scarlets. Very competitive in the air. And the thing I felt as well was, Leinster, at times, some really good, operators in the air, the likes of O'Brien and Keenan, especially to the fore, but Scarlets had them as well. And it felt like Scarlets, when they won those kicking contests, that they're the team that could move it, and they had the pace over Leinster, especially, in the width, and then with the fullback coming in as well into the line, that they were the more likely team to actually profit from those kicks. Penalties then, 9 conceded by Leinster, 11 for Scarlets. So Leinster just about in single figures, but Scarlets not too far away from them. On to players then, 13 points for Prendergast, but again, I don't think it was a brilliant performance from him, and it feels like this season there hasn't really been much progress from him. And really what I want to see next year, is more competition, because Byrne is leaving. He used to be the starting 10. Frawley has completely dropped off. And Prendergast just seems to be automatically big now when he's going to be in the side. So I think he needs maybe bring in, maybe even a 4 and 10 in there, maybe somebody who's got the miles on the clock, and bring him along, because he really feels like he needs something like that. Kind of similar to when Contepomi was there, when Sexton was coming through. I think that would be a good kind of combination for them to have there. But yeah, Prendergast, not impressed with him this season at all. He is a young guy. He's going to learn, but we have to judge him on the fact that he's starting 10 for Leinster as well. So we can't kind of sugarcoat things from, I don't think. Johnny Williams then with 5 for Scarlets. Tries then, Osborne and Williams won each, but all of the try scorers were single tries. Successful carries, Jack Cunningham with 7 for Leinster. He had to go off injured there towards the end, as did Orgy Simon, who got his head split open. So there certainly worries for the semi-final. Plumtree with 4 for Scarlets. Thought he was decent. Clean breaks then, 3 for James Lowe and 2 for Blair Murray. Again, Murray looking very dangerous. Defenders beating Hugo Keenan with 5 and Blair Murray with 5 as well. So, Keenan, we kind of saw when he came back from the sevens, it took a while for him to really readjust to 15's game, and then he was kind of just a solid fullback for a while. Now we're starting to see a little bit more threat from him, but because the attacking system isn't working the way we've seen it in the past, it means that even when he is coming in to join the line and he is beating defenders, Leinster just don't have it at the minute to actually turn those kind of opportunities into scores. Meters made then, Keenan with 67, and Murray with 55. So again, Blair Murray, been absolute sensation this season. Offloads, Jimmy O'Brien with 3 and Sam Lousy with 2. Onto defence then, Jack Conan, 6 tackles, and 6 tackles out of 46 is a decent going for him as well. Hepburn then with 15. And he really put himself about, maybe a bit too much there when he gave away the yellow card. And then Prendergast and Lousy getting 1 turnover each. So, Sam Prendergast, at least putting himself about a bit. And I thought actually in terms of, I did have criticised him, so I have to give him props for certain things. I thought in terms of his movement around the field, he was better, because we've seen him be very sluggish, especially over the first couple of meters. So we're seeing a little bit of improvement there from him. But the thing with pace is either you have it or you don't. But at least he's putting in the effort to try and make up for it. But yeah, those are our stats. Let's talk about the team. So we start with the Scarlets first. On attack, they look really good. I thought they disrupted Leinster well. They had problems in the scrum though. They seemed to, be pushing before the set, and that got them into trouble a couple of times. And eventually, it got raised to penalty level as well. But I thought they disrupted Leinster's line-out fairly well. Although both teams kind of competed well on each other's line-outs, they defended pretty well as well against Leinster. Even though they conceded 4 tries. Leinster didn't really cut them over. Leinster just kind of ran over them at times, so it wasn't kind of a lack of effort or a lack of positioning from them. It was just Leinster at times can do that to teams, even if they're not firing in terms of, as I said, kind of all those intricate plays and stuff. But on attack, they were easily the better team of the two teams on attack. If you gave the Scarlets the amount of possession and territory that Leinster had, they would have won by a bigger scoreline than Leinster did. I think, that Scarlets team with that much territory and possession probably beat this Leinster team by 20 odd points. I honestly believe that. Now, not saying every day of the week or whatever. I'm saying on the performance from today, that, Scarlets, if they got in as many positions as Leinster did, they had the tools to open up that Leinster defence far more than Leinster did to open theirs up. So really good performance from them. And it's good to see. I said in the build-up, even as a Leinster fan, I didn't want to see Scarlets getting, beaten out the gate, as could be a problem for a team that has just about gotten themselves into the playoffs. But they did themselves proud. They did their region proud as well. And I talked about it all through the season that Dwayne Peel, has put backbone into that team this year. And we saw that as well. Leinster got that 12-point lead. There was no panic from them. Last year. That same Scarlets team, 12 points down. They probably would have conceded another couple of tries before halftime. Got a try themselves. That was a worldie. And then second half, then Leinster stretch away between 40 and 60 minutes, maybe winning by maybe 30 odd points or something. And then Scarlet score a couple of late tries, again, worldly tries, but they would have been well beaten. Didn't happen to them today. They did get beaten, but, nobody can say that they weren't close to Leinster in this game. I thought, it was a brilliant performance, and it just shows how much they've improved over last year. And again, that's something for them. For all these teams that are doing well, getting to the quarterfinal and not necessarily advancing is the question is, can they build on it for next season? Because we saw, Ospreys last year having done something similar to the Scarlets to make it into the final 8, not being able to kick on. They lose their first game against the Dragons, like the Dragons' only win of the season. Then they stutter their way through most of the season, improve a little bit, and then fall away towards the end of the season. Scarlets don't want to have that next year. They want to again, kind of keep this as a base and then build from there. But the problem is you've got teams like, Edinburgh who are looking to do the same thing. You have, also the Stormers there who, they've been champions before. They've got a young team. They need to maybe get some progress in terms of bringing in maybe a bit more in terms of experience and stuff, but they're going to progress. Then you have the likes of Benetton, Ulster, etc., who missed out. The Lions, who missed out on the playoffs this year, who are going to want to take their spot next year, and Cardiff as well. But I think, brilliant campaign from Scarlets, and they can be proud of their efforts this season. Leinster then, they've gotten to the semi-final, but they're not filling anyone with confidence, are they? They've stuttered their way through the game, through the knockout stages, through the last kind of month and a half. And it's worrying, honestly, as a Leinster fan, because again, as I said, this season was built on the defence being better and, that the attack would come at some stage. But now the defence is getting exposed and the attack is nowhere to be seen. So there's definitely plenty of work to do. The fact that they're struggling, at the line out as well is very worrying, because the line out and the scrums, they're the platform that Leinster, launched from. They've gone from that kind of, multi-phase, tons of dummy runners, lots of options for the ball carrier type of slice you open attack, to very prescribed, set plays, 1 to 3 phases kind of offset piece where they're looking to cut you open just because they've rehearsed this particular move a million times, right? So if your set piece isn't working and you're not getting that clean ball, then that goes out the window as well. And then, from open play, they don't have the ability at the minute as a team to actually cut teams open. You're seeing like the Geordie Barrett with his undoubted immense skills, trying to maybe do something off the cuff or wherever, trying crossfield kicks and things, not coming off as well. So, definitely a ton of improvement needed from the Leinster side. I would go as, maybe it's just a reaction, full-time reaction, but I would go as far as to say that, I'd make Glasgow the favourites for that semi-final right now. Maybe, once dust settles during the week and I do my preview, maybe I'll maybe change my mind a little bit. But yeah, looking at the performances of those two teams in the quarterfinals, I'd say that Glasgow are the favourites. So Leinster absolutely have to step their game up. There's no point in stumbling your way through the knockouts, because you're eventually going to get caught out, and Scarlets cause them a lot of problems, but Glasgow are a step up from them. And Glasgow, if they're going to see what the Scarlets attack did to that Leinster defence, and they're going to be licking their lips. So yeah, worrying times, honestly, as a Leinster fan.